Hi, everybody. Coming to you from my office today. So I appreciate you coming here and watching this recorded lecture. If we were in person, we'd be talking about graphics a little bit today. Graphics are a really important part of any newscast. They help us to give information to our audience. They help us boil down key bits of information to just the right amount of information that a person might need. They help us visualize difficult stories, illustrate key points, help with pace and flow by giving us something to show our audience instead of a reader sometimes. And in a lot of ways, they help us build our brand, because if you look at any television station or any media product for that matter, there are a lot of choices that go into what we put into our graphics, how and when we put them on our newscasts, so that we can set ourselves apart from other people. So I think in the chapter you read a lot about the different things that we could use graphics for. So we might have that over-the-shoulder box shot where the anchor is over to the side and we have maybe a picture or a graphic in the side, and then that might have some writing in the box. And so just to give us a little bit of a different visual look. Sometimes we'll have full screen graphics. Sometimes we'll have lower third graphics or banners that come across the bottom that have information about the story. Or, of course, we have lower third supers for people's names and titles. There are a wide range of things that we might do. In our newscast, we're not going to do lower third banners, and we don't do over-the-shoulder boxes because we're going to leave that to senior semester for you to work on that. But there are lots of different things that we do in our Carolina Insider product, and so I want to talk to you a little bit about those today and how we can go ahead keeping things pretty simple. There's one other type of graphic that we didn't talk about, and that is bugs and double boxes. So a bug might be where you would see a station's logo down in the bottom for the duration of the newscast to help brand who you're watching at any given time. And double boxes, of course, when you have two anchors that are an anchor and a reporter in different places. We might put the anchor in the studio in one box, and we put the reporter in another box, and we say where they are, and we pull them together with the central graphic. Again, all of those things are going to have some branding elements. So some of the things you might have been reading about was how really simple is very good when it comes to graphics for when we're producing something for our audience. We want it to be clear, easy to follow, not too crowded, not too many pieces of information. We want to boil things down to just the key information, and then try to add that information one line at a time if we can, and we can find a way to time that out pretty well. That's nice if we can do those things as well. We really want to talk about say dog, see dog. When you're saying something, we need to see that thing. When you're giving us information, it needs to read the way that we read, top to bottom, left to right. So top to bottom, left to right, simple is good. Maybe sometimes when it comes to, for example, numbers that you're giving us, and if the actual number is $13.9 million, you might say approximately 14 million, right? And you might say approximately 14 million in the script, but show 13.9 in the graphic. So we try to want to have that being visually and verbally redundant, but we don't want to make it exactly what we're seeing. I thought I might show you a couple of examples of ways that newscasts have brought those in the past, some of the ways that we can produce those for our newscasts, and how we might want to try to pull some of those things in. So to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you for just a moment because I have several things to show you. So let's start with some of the graphics that are going to be things that we're going to regularly be using this semester. So we have, of course, our show open, right? And so let me show you what that looks like. Obviously, that has Carolina Insider, the name of our program. You may also notice it has this integrated little bug that shows up there. That's an important feature because we're trying to keep elements of that feature coming through all of our graphics, and so you'll see those in several places. You may also notice we have a certain color scheme that we use. It is Carolina. We have a lot of garnet and black and white in our university theme, and so the graphics producer pulled those colors in to try to reflect the nature of the university that we are a part of. And you may also notice deep in the background, it's got a global view in the background, but we understand we are Carolina Insider within that. We also have a number of opens for our franchises. Now I'm going to talk about franchises next week, but when you're thinking about integrating a franchise, we're going to have several potential opens to choose from. So for example, if you were wanting to talk about things that are happening around the community, you might use this particular open. Carolina calendar. All right, so that shows some of the Soda City scenes that we might have. Like this one is from, obviously, it's from the fair, and or down 5 points, Carolina calendar. So if you're talking about things that are going on out in the community, that's good. If you're talking about something that's going on campus and you're trying to bring attention to something really good that's happening on campus, you might want to use the Cocky Spotlight open. So that could be something on campus, that could be something related to sports, but it's not necessarily a sports story. You could have On the Move. This is for things where, let's say your franchise reporter was talking about a new community garden and they wanted to talk about that. You might talk about that and use this open for On the Move. And this is really more for health and wellness. We have another opening for politics. So if your franchise reporter is reporting on something that's happening up at the State House, we would be talking about politics. Sometimes we integrate national politics to that as well, especially if it relates to student or educational issues. We have Soda City scene. You notice all these graphics have the same brand. We have things that are happening in the buzz. Now, I know this is a really old Instagram picture, and again, we need to update these graphics, but these are the ones that we have to work with right now. And so we're starting with a social media page and changing over to this lovely iPhone 4, right? And then the Garnet report for sports. So if we think that we might be covering some sort of athletic event, something that's going on, we could use that. So those are the franchise opens that we have. Now we also sometimes, let's see, we're going to go back here. Sometimes we might want to create a graphic for ourselves, and we want to do a full screen graphic. If you're the associate producer, you are responsible for integrating and building that graphic for your newscast. So I want to kind of show you some examples of what some of these full screen graphics might look like as they're integrated and how they've been done in some recent newscasts, and also why some of them have been produced in a way that's challenging and some ways that are good. So let's start with some good examples. So here's a clean, simple graphic. Let me find it. Come on, that's not it. Okay, clean, simple graphic that starts top to bottom, left to right. And just like any other VO, we're going to probably start with the anchor on camera for a sentence, and then we'll go to the graphics.
The architects in charge of building the new student union will be on campus today, holding 2 forums to hear student and faculty opinion. The first forum will be from 4:30 to 5:45 in Russell House Room 305. The second will be from 7:30 to 9 in the Leadership and Service Center.
What I like about this graphic is it has all caps bold for the title. He said student union forums. We saw student union forums, and the title and what he said created visual verbal redundancy. He spoke about the first forum. He said the first forum, and this graphic has forum 1. And he actually did it top to bottom, left to right. The first forum is tonight at 4:30 at Russell House 305. You may also notice that this was timed in advance. So what they did was they created the script, Then they ask the anchor to read the script and figure out how long would it take them to read the first section, just like if you were timing a VO. How long would it take you to read the first section? And then at what point should I have the second forum pop in? And you can tell we have this nice moving background in the, or bug in the bottom right, so that that is branding our graphic. It's a very simple, clean graphic, right? I'll show you another one. Here's another page change that sort of does a good job of demonstrating say dog, see dog. It's timed very nicely. Let me go ahead and read this part.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm McKenna Cieslag. Our top story tonight, thousands of people are streaming into Columbia as we speak. The city's very own Colonial Life Arena hosts 5 NCAA tournament basketball games this weekend, starting today. Virginia, the #1 to South region, will play Gardner-Webb at 3:45. The most anticipated game of the night, Duke, the #1 seed in the East region, will play at 7:10. Zion Williamson, college basketball's biggest star at Duke, is returning to play in his home state, according to the state newspaper.
So we don't need every word that she's saying to be on there, but here's what we do want. We want an all caps title that is up above the red line and centered just up above it. We want the information in the graphic to be in upper lower case. And we want to read left to right, top to bottom. In this case, they made 2 separate full screen graphics, and then they timed them and edited them together so that we would be timed to change by page instead of having information add on line by line. So it's a page change graphic where we change straight hot from one to the other, and where she says #1 Duke, coming up at 7:10, and then she talked about Zion Williamson because she had a couple of sentences there. So I thought that was a well-produced example of a graphic. Here's another couple of well-timed graphics that I thought they did a really nice job. These were a couple of things that with a presidential search last year.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Carolina Insider. Our top story today, USC presidential candidates continue to visit campus. Each candidate is appearing in a public presentation before students and faculty, building questions and making cases for themselves. But the presidential search is not without controversy. The group of students and faculty is calling for a more diverse group of finalists, since all 4 are men. Joseph Walsh fielded questions about that on Monday during his visit, agreeing that diverse voices on campus are critical, and saying that 5 of the 8 associates he hired at Northwestern were women. William Tate came to campus yesterday, Robert Caslin is coming here today, and tomorrow, the final candidate, John Applegate, will be here for his presentation and Q&A.
Now, I thought that was very well timed. I would prefer for whatever that first piece of information is that you plan to talk about. In this case, it was Joseph Walsh. Don't make us wait for it. Go ahead and put that first piece of information up there. I also think the frame size of this graphic was a little bit off, but it was simple and clean and added on one at a time. If you don't want to try to add something on one at a time, you don't have to do that, but it does kind of make for some movement for the audience to be able to follow. And here's another one. Let me see where this one is. I think it's towards the end. All right. Yep. Okay, so we'll go with this.
Edition is created around the theme of Power of the Paintbrush. Homecoming events will be going on all week on campus. Spurs and Struts will be tonight at 7 p.m. in the Columbia Convention Center. Tomorrow at 9 p.m. will be the U of Scream Haunted House in Blatt PE Center. And Friday evening at 5 p.m. will be Carolina's Got Talent. For more information, you can visit the Russell House website. Back to you, Corey.
Okay, so that's a good example of a franchise operator putting that into their graphic. Now, you can actually add a couple of creative elements to it. I'm going to show you a few different ways that you could, for example, integrate pictures. So let's try some picture integration here.
Of 4 campus visits from 4 presidential candidates, the search is causing some controversy on campus. Multiple organizations are upset that no women were included among the finalists. Those finalists include John Applegate, Robert Caslin Jr., William Tate, and Joseph Walsh. The issue of gender diversity was brought up to Walsh during his appearance on campus Monday. He said he agrees that women deserve a spot in leadership and said that 5 of 8 associates he hired at Northwestern were women. It's unclear whether the board will make a decision or address the issue today.
All right, so that was written in as a VO tag. It was real clean. It had all the people. We talked about those people left to right because that's the way people tend to read things. And let's see, we'll go to this. Okay, here's another story. Here we go. Of integrating a picture and a quote into a full screen graphic.
Thanks, Emma. Back on campus, the recently suspended Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity is facing even more scrutiny after heckling a news reporter. After the frat suspension last week, members could be heard yelling at Watchbox reporter Brittany Breeding with sexually charged comments while she was reporting in front of their house in Greek Village. The incident is sparking debate on whether or not the individual students should be punished. In Breeding's statement, she says, "While it was happening, it didn't really hurt my feelings or anything. It just more so frustrated me because I was just there trying to do my job. In any other job, what they did would be unthinkable."
So I really like this. It's a great idea for a breaking news story. They got a clip of her from their website, attributed the quote to her. I would like to see her name on here, not just her face. So I would say down here at the bottom right, that might be nice, but I thought that was a very nice, clean graphic. Sometimes you're going to do some other things. So let's see, this is, okay. So sometimes you're going to take a really different approach, and maybe you're going to keep with our colors, but you're going to try to do something a little more on the creative side. So let's take a look at this one. Now, in this case, there were some challenges with the teleprompter and the anchor read, but I'm really not interested in that so much as showing you how the graphic was produced.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Caroline Wolf. Today, we put our focus on the state legislature. A range of new laws are making their way through the system that could impact the lives of people across the Palmetto State, including here on campus. State senators have passed the Compassionate Care Act out of the committee. The act would legalize medical marijuana, allowing the purchase of up to 2 ounces if doctors authorize it. The bill moves on now to the full Senate. Members of a House subcommittee are considering a bill that would ban abortions after the heartbeat of a fetus is detected. For most women, this would be about 6 weeks into pregnancy. According to an ABC News Columbia, the subcommittee will hold additional hearings on the proposal. And the state newspaper reports that the state's hands-free bill may not pass this year. House lawmakers sent the bill back to committee to further discuss fines and penalties.
Okay, so yeah, there were a couple of, Anchor was tripping over it, but we were easily able to follow along. They took a nice screenshot of the State House. They put it into the background. They used the same color scheme, and they timed it very well to go along with what the Anchor was doing. There are also going to be cases where perhaps you are doing a package. Let's say you're doing a package for 471, and you need a graphic, and you want to incorporate a graphic. This would be where you could integrate the same graphic look if you wanted to. You don't have to, but you can integrate the same graphic look into your packages in 471 so that they'll automatically be included in the graphic for the show. So let's watch this.
Economic growth is heading into West Columbia as the Midlands becomes a new business hotspot. Shantice Stewart reports on what is causing these changes.
It's homecoming weekend, and the festivities are in full swing here at Black Rooster, one of West Columbia's newest restaurants. It's the latest project for Christian Needham, known for Mr. Friendly's, Javane Bourbon, and many others. He says he couldn't pass up the spectacular views.
I mean, that's kind of why we chose this location, was because we could look out over the river, whether you're sitting downstairs in the dining room or especially if you're up here on the rooftop.
But the view wasn't the only thing that sold him coming to West Columbia. He says one of the biggest advantages to opening a business here was just how receptive the city was.
It was a culture of what can we do to help you, get your business open, which was really refreshing.
The city is reaping benefits of recent legislation that creates opportunity zones in low-income communities. The Federal Tax Cuts and Job Acts of 2017 give businesses special tax breaks. There were 135 of these zones in South Carolina, one of them including West Columbia.
All right, so there's a way in which you can incorporate that graphic in there. So those are just some things. I am going to show you a couple of challenges that sort of demonstrate when things aren't exactly how we'd like them, and just show you some things that we might want to do differently. This example.
Programs, faculty projects, and campus-wide activities that make USC such a rich and diverse environment. This year's goal is to reach 6,500 donors. You can donate at giveforgarnet.sc.edu. By the way, you can...
Okay, so this is super simple. However, do we need the word individual in there? Can we put goal of 6,500 donors? And if you're saying donate today, we don't need to see donate today. Just show giveforgarnet.sc.edu. I'd also like to see the Give for Garnet at the top be a little bit bigger. It is in all caps, but it looks to be pretty much the same size as the font down below. So get rid of individual donors because we don't need that word, and get rid of donate today at. Just put the website up there that you're trying to get somebody to go to. All right, so here's a good graphic, but the timing is off. Okay, so let's talk about this one.
Require rideshare vehicles such as Uber and Lyft to clearly identify themselves with illuminated stickers on their windshields. In the wake of Josephson's death, the USC's President Pastides also issued a statement regarding rideshare users to ensure the license plate, make, model, and color all matched within the app. He also said to request that the driver say the user's name so that they know if it is the driver they are expecting.
So obviously the timing was a little bit off. So just make sure that when you're editing your graphic, you're timing it with the anchor who's going to do the actual read before you edit the graphic finally in your project. Also, I don't think we need these little dashes next to there. I think you could get rid of those. Here's an example of one that was not exported properly, and so it was really far back there in the background. So it had good information, I think too much information, and then was exported in the wrong file size.
Students showcasing a variety of performances and styles. The event takes place Saturday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. at the Koger Center. Tickets are $125 per person and $85 for folks 25 to 40 years old.
So I think you could probably say tickets and then on the same line have 85 to 125, right? And I don't need per person, you can say per person. And then you could say if you're 25 to 40 with an ID, you can get in for those $85 tickets. But then we need to make sure that we're editing it properly so that we don't have this great big black box all the way around it. I'll show you that in just a moment. Also, if you're going to put it on the graphic, you need to say it, right? So here's an example.
And cover 3. Bar owners say they will have staff on the sidewalks for the first hour after closing. The staff members are available to any concerned guest who would like an escort to their Uber, Lyft, or even their own vehicle. Steve Tannehill, who owns Group Therapy, says
So there was a whole section there about confirm rideshare. It was on there, we didn't say it. So say dog, see dog, we need to see that. Also, here's another example of top to bottom, left to right. We need to make sure that we're reading in the right order.
Right here in Columbia. The Duke Blue Devils will come to town as the #1 overall seed.
Let's stop that for a moment. I want that on the screen to begin with. I don't want you to dissolve into it. I want it on the screen from the very beginning. All the information, if you're going to put all of that up there, I want it all up, especially if you're going to put all that information. Don't make me wait with this empty frame beforehand.
Overall seed with freshman sensation, Zion Williamson. Williamson is from Spartanburg. Columbia will play host to another #1 seed, the Virginia Cavaliers, out of the South region. We'll also be seeing SEC rival Ole Miss, who will take...
So they skipped right over Virginia and Gardner-Webb. So not going to talk about it. Don't put it up there. But if you're going to talk about all 4 March Madness games, first there's Duke versus NCCU. Next, it's VCU versus University of Central Florida, followed by Virginia and Gardner-Webb, and finally Ole Miss versus Oklahoma. We need to get that information in there, top to bottom, left to right, and we do want those words on from the start. So I think you get the gist of that. You've read some things about it. I want to talk about how to produce these graphics. I honestly believe the simplest place to produce your full screen graphics is going to be in Final Cut. Now, if you want to produce graphics in Adobe Premiere and you want to use After Effects and you want to go down that route, I applaud you for doing that. I encourage you to teach yourself how to do that. But I think that there are just too many steps in that process to be good for you guys. So instead, we're going to do it in Final Cut. And we have in our graphics bin, in addition to our opens and our stingers for our franchise reporters, we have this full screen graphic, and here it is, and that's all there is. It's just a plain full screen graphic. So when you're wanting to produce a graphic, I'm going to show you in a minute when I come back to screen. I have a full handout on step-by-step how to do this in Final Cut, so you will find that under handouts. You'll also find it in the graphics section of our OneDrive. So how do you produce this graphic? So, for example, you're going to create a project the same way you would, right? And you make sure that you have that graphics background in the project so that you know what you're working with. And then down here on your dock, you will find Final Cut Pro. Now, this is Final Cut Pro 10. We don't like to use this in our program anymore because it just doesn't have a really good workflow. You can't set it up so that all your material lives in a particular bin like you can with Adobe Premiere. We find Adobe Premiere is much more like what you're going to find in going into newsrooms across America. But Final Cut Pro is very popular for prosumer level graphics, and part of that is because there's some really easy stuff you can do. So you're going to open up Final Cut Pro. Now I already have, you can see I've already got a couple of projects in here, but when you open it up, it may be that you don't see anything in there because you've never opened Final Cut Pro before. So you're gonna have to do this in a lab, and you're gonna go into, it's real similar to Adobe Premiere, but you're gonna go into this bin in the top left, and you're gonna import audio, the same, or file, import, media. You're going to import your media the same way you would, and in this case you're going to select what media you want to import and then click on import selected. Now I've already brought in the graphics background. Okay, so if you want to do an even newer one, so I've opened this before. It has an idea of what my new project, what the settings should be for my new project. So but when you open it up for the first time, it's going to ask you to title the project. So let's put graphics project, okay? And I'm going to put it in wherever it is I want that project to belong, but it's basically in this events bin. Here's a real important part. We want this project to be 1080p, 1920 by 1080, 1920, 1080, not any of these, 1920, 1080, and we want it to be 60p because that's the way most of our other material is. And we render in Apple ProRes 422. So those are some settings that's in the handout, but that'll make sure that the timeline you create makes the graphic look right to begin with. So I'm going to say, okay. All right, and then I'm going to click on my graphics background. I'm going to drag the whole thing down. It is now in my timeline. You may notice when I pull the scrubby through, there's like a minute worth of graphic background. That's just there so that you have plenty to work with. We're going to trim it up at the end when we edit this graphic. And you can finally edit the final graphic in Adobe Premiere, or you can edit the entire thing here in Final Cut, and that's fine. So we have this background graphic. And then what we're going to do is we are going to put in our titles. So we need a title for the very top of the graphic, and then we're going to need a separate title for what we're going to put into the middle of the graphic. So the first thing we're going to do is edit, connect title, basic title. And that basic title, as you see, is going to pop right in, right? I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to drag that out so that the first title that I work on is going to be my headline title. And it's going to go the duration of the project for right now. So I can do this a couple of ways. I can double click in here, or I can double click in here. I like to do it this way, where I'm double clicking in the title, and then I'm going to go over here to the right, and I'm going to make, in all caps, this is my headline. Okay, that's my headline. I'm going to grab this little circle and I'm going to pull it up. This yellow line helps us know, am I to the left of where I should be, to the right of where I should be? If it's on the yellow, I'm staying centered. So I'm going to put it here, but then I'm going to make it bigger. I'm going to grab the size and I want to make it so that it goes at least as far as the edges. Oh, maybe that's a little big. So just as far as to the edge of the graphic, right? So I'm going to pull that down just a little bit so that it looks like my headline is on the top of the graphic. And so if you look at that now, I have, this is my headline. All right, real simple. So I've put my headline up there, and then I'm going to go again, edit, connect title, basic title. And as long as I'm at where I want that new title to connect to at the beginning, it'll go right on top of the headline I've already created. And so let's pretend for a minute, actually I'm going to go into here, let's pretend I'm doing a Carolina calendar, okay? Now I might want to do a Carolina calendar where I have all the information for all 3 events up at the same time, right? So if that's the case, then I'm going to click in here and I'm going to have event number 1 time date of that one, event number 2 time date, and event number 3 time date. So let's pretend that's, you know, my full screen graphic. I'm going to grab it in the middle and I'm going to pull the whole thing up to make it more centered in between my garnet. And then maybe I think I might like to make, ooh, I want the whole thing. I'm going to highlight the whole thing, right? I'm going to make the whole thing bigger. Oh, why is my font sizes are not, there we go. I might have to do them because I double clicked in this one first. I might have to do them one at a time. So I'm going to make this one, that looks pretty good size wise, right? And that's 82.5, right? So let me get this one, make that also 82.5 because I want it to be about the same, right? And then event number 3, I'm going to highlight this event. And well, it's giving me, it's being grumpy. Highlight that same event, and I'm going to make that 82.5. Well, that's close enough. Okay, so then I've got my 3 events, right? And, oh, sorry. And I hit play. And there they are, all 3 events, top to bottom, left to right. I'm going to read them like that. So pretend for a moment, though, that I actually want to have these events adding on one at a time, right? I want event number 1 to show up first, event number 2 to show up next, and event number 3 to show up third. Well, what I can do is I can edit this so that I'm copying that. I'm going to paste it again, edit, paste, and I'm going to click a little further, edit, paste. Because I've already established where I want each piece of this event to be on the line. So I have 3 different events now that I'm going to talk about. So in event 1, I'm going to, now that I've created the whole thing, I'm going to delete the first page or the first part. In event 2, I just want the first 2 to be on there. And event 3, I want to come on one at a time. Well, so let's say I want to post-produce this in Adobe Premiere. All I need to do is just put all of these together. I've got 10 seconds of each, right? So I've got, you know, 10 or 15 seconds of each one. Here's a change. Here's a change, right? So I don't need to time it out perfectly while I'm creating the graphic if I don't want to. I can just drag these back and say, I'm just going to export about 40 seconds of the graphic, and then I'm going to edit it down in Adobe Premiere. That's great. That's fine. You can absolutely do that. Or you could take the script to the anchor, ask the anchor to time it, and then if the first sentence takes until 6 seconds and you need a second of front pad, then that would be to right about there, 7:01. I can do it like this, and then I can bring over the next one, and then the next sentence takes, you know, however many seconds it takes to read, that's fine. I'm going to bring the next one over. Oh, we don't want to double up like that because that would be wrong. We're going to drag it over. You notice they just click right back to each other, and that's for 26 seconds. I'm going to let that drag out a little bit longer because I need some back pad. So let's pretend my story is supposed to be 24 seconds, right? Then I'm going to need at least 26 seconds, right? But I don't need too much more than that. Okay, so 26, I don't want more than 5 seconds of back pad. But look, so here's my event. Event number 1. Anchor is reading, anchor is reading. Event number 2. Event number 3. So you can do it that way. The other way that you can do it is that you can have each page be its own event. And so event number 1 is going to be, event number 1 is going to have the name of the event. So it would be more like name, date, time, cost, or something like that. Let's say that's your event 1, right? So I'll just copy that. I don't like to right click on that one. I'm going to put it here, edit, paste. My second event would be this page. My third event would be this page. And then actually I need to delete that, and I need to drag that out a little bit so that I have my third event, edit, paste, my third event. I need to pull it up here because this actually needs to go, the headline needs to go all the way out there. So now I have 3 different events. I'm going to edit that and export it separately. So you can do it as an add-on line by line, or you can just do it so where each event changes to a full page. And like I said on the earlier, when I was showing the creative things, there's lots of ways that you can integrate graphics, integrate, like you can put the information on the right and you can put a picture on the left. You can go Google how to do that. There's information all over the internet about how do I incorporate a graphic in Final Cut 10 or Final Cut X. It's in the form of an X. So let's pretend that's all the graphic elements that I want to do because I'm going to post-produce this in Adobe Premiere. I'm going to edit, select all because I want every bit of this project to go out, right? And then I'm going to go File, Share. This is totally different than our normal way of doing things. Master file, okay? And then you can change that's the info that we have. It's Carolina calendar. You can screen through it really quick. Does that look like what you think it's supposed to look like? It's 1920 by 1080. We don't really have any audio, but it's listed in stereo. The settings, what settings do I want? If I want it in H.264, that would be great because if you set the settings for the export at H.264 in 1920, 1080, it'll be basically what it is that we're doing in our regular exports for our MP4s in our class. Where do you want it to go to? You put it into wherever your graphics project is. In this case, I created a graphics project on my desk. I'm going to put it into that Final Cut Pro, and I'm going to label it Carolina Calendar Final Cut Pro 10 so that I know for sure that's not the final piece. This is just what I exported from Final Cut Pro 10. I'm going to minimize that, and here it is already. So look at this. Oh, my Why is that not liking that? Oh, that's very interesting. For some reason, oh, there it is. Sorry, it may not have been done yet, right? It might not have been done, so I kind of went really fast there. So look, there's our name, our date, our time, our bold looking graphic up there at the top, and I can post produce this in Adobe Premiere if I want to, or I can you know, do it all in the first place in Final Cut and actually do the edit in Final Cut. So that's the basic graphic, and that's all I'm trying to get you guys to pay attention to. You will notice that I have this handout. Let me show this to you, right? How to create a full screen graphics in Final Cut Pro for Carolina Insider. It takes you through this step by step. It reminds you that content should generally match, but not exactly duplicate. This is how we do events, for example, for Carolina Calendar. If you want it to shine, you can use multiple parts, have them come in one at a time, have them page change, and these are the expectations for that. And we're going to be talking about MP4 conversions down the line, so we don't need to worry about that at this very moment because that's all the information from that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I know that this seems very simplistic. I know that it seems like it's not a very exciting graphic to produce, but producing it simply and well and having visual verbal redundancy top to bottom, left to right is something that we really want to be working on. And so all the information that you're going to need for that is in the OneDrive. And so are all of the franchise opens, and so are all of the show open and other things that we're going to be working on. So hopefully you guys appreciate that I can't be there every day, but I'm trying to be there as often as I can to get you guys all geared up. Our first newscasts are coming up very quickly, so I appreciate all the time and attention you guys are paying to the lectures in this class and your engagement with the material. And I'll have those both graded for you very soon. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.